Albert Pyun's Cyborg is one of the most maligned films of the late 80s. I mean, people either love this movie or they just hate it. I understand both. I'm of the hardcore love this movie variety. Albert is one of the most underrated filmmakers ever, as far as I'm concerned. To me, and this is gonna sound absolutely crazy, but he belongs right up there with James Cameron and some of these guys. His vision is so uniquely his own. He lives in his own world, his own universe. He lives in a world populated with cyborgs and rocker chicks in the future and Kathy Ireland as an alien. I mean, he lives in his own sphere. The thing with Albert is that he puts every dollar on the screen, every single cent. He doesn't have the James Cameron budgets. He's got the James Cameron vision, but he doesn't have the James Cameron budgets. He started out beautifully with The Sword and the Sorcerer, which is, I would even hesitate to call it a Conan ripoff. It's not a Conan ripoff. It's The Sword and the Sorcerer, okay? But it is one of the coolest sword and sorcery films of the 1980s. Somehow he got on this track of doing these wildly, unpredictably, nutball, insane post-apocalyptic movies. And he just kind of felt very comfortable in that world. Radioactive Dreams was the beginning of that. And I love Radioactive Dreams. It's like a film noir, musical, punk chicks, nuclear wasteland, mutant warlords. I mean, it's got all that stuff. And Albert, his vision for the apocalypse is so cool. I love it.
That slinger can't help you now. I'll take you to Atlanta, and you'll give me the cure. And if you don't, I'll give you the horror show.
His movie for Cyborg has some very strange origins. So he was working with Cannon in the 80s. He did Journey to the Center of the Earth and Alien from LA, which are back-to-back movies, okay? Cannon handed him a 2-picture-in-a-row back-to-back deal for Spider-Man and Masters of the Universe 2. The money started to disappear right before they started filming. They were on the sets. The sets were built, like 80% built. And they had Laird Hamilton, this really world-famous surfer, to play He-Man, to take over from Dolph Lundgren. Now, if you remember, Masters of the Universe was not a big hit. By the time that Masters of the Universe came out, the interest for the toys was already waning. And Cannon was like, we need another one right away. Let's make another one. So you get Albert Pyun stuck with Masters 2 and Spider-Man, and they want to shoot these movies back to back. And if you pay attention to Cannon and their track record, whenever they did a back-to-back movie, like King Solomon's Mines and Alan Quartermain and the Lost City of Gold, it's like night and day. So the money dwindles, disappears. They don't have the money for 2 decent movies, so they say to Albert, what are we gonna do? You know, what can you do? He says, well, let's get this script we have for a Chuck Norris movie about this war-weary veteran who walks home basically during an apocalyptic situation. Like the apocalypse has happened and he's coming home and he encounters XYZ bad guys. So they have this script already, and Albert says, well, I have a cooler idea. Why don't we make it totally futuristic, and we'll have cyborgs, and we'll have, you know, these incredible situations that only I can deliver right now with this budget and these sets that are already built. Let's just do a quick retrofit, set it in a post-apocalyptic time, and that's what they ended up doing. I had a feeling Cannon figured, this isn't what we want to throw at Chuck Norris. Let's give Chuck Norris, the hero and the terror, or something like this. So they had this, Jean-Claude Van Damme already with Kickboxer and Bloodsport. And let's throw this little Albert Pyun movie at him. They had no prep time on this movie. They just ran right into it. They had the sets, they had some costumes, and if you look at the chilling, stark, frightening future that Albert Pyun puts on screen, it's a smoky atmosphere. To me, it's scarier than anything that George Miller did in the Mad Max movies. It kind of takes Mad Max, that core concept of a renegade hero against all these bad guys, these horrible, evil bad guys, the flesh pirates. You put one good guy versus 100 super tank evil villains, and you have a little story. A hero has to get here and here and here. It's very simple. It's a very XYZ kind of a script, but it's not the story that's interesting. It's the way Albert shoots the film. It's one of the scariest, to me, to this day, to this very day. It's one of the scariest futures I've ever seen in a movie. It's as scary as something as real as The Road is. The Road is the total flip side of Cyborg. And that's what Cyborg feels like to me. It's like if these guys get a hold of you, they're going to eat you. I mean, look how big these guys are. You've got Rolf Muller in there, Mr. Universe. Stefanos Miltsakakis, who, this was his first movie, and later on he would do a couple of other Van Damme movies because he played really good against Van Damme. He was the bad guy that fights Van Damme in an elevator in Maximum Risk. But if you look at him in this movie, man, he's scary. All these guys are scary. Vincent Klein as the lead villain in Cyborg with those zoned out eyes, to me, that guy is scarier than Lord Humongous, Toe Cutter, any of these guys. He is so scary.
Tell me something. I tried to kill you. So why did you stay with me while I was knocked out? Sort of goes against your hard-ass style.
It's because I felt sorry for you.
Man has a heart.
And Van Damme being the quiet, sensitive, understated hero in this movie, you really, despite how fit he is in the film, you fear for this guy. If these monsters get a hold of him, it's over. I mean, to me, this is one of the bleakest post-apocalyptic movies I've ever seen. Cyborg ends up being, I wouldn't say it's a hit, but it's a video store hit, because everywhere I go, I remember being a kid, I would walk by a video store and there would the Cyborg poster be on the window. And that was probably one of the first times that I became aware of Jean-Claude Van Damme. While Bloodsport, Kickboxer had played on television and all this kind of thing, I didn't really pay that much attention to those movies. They just seemed kind of like some other movie. But Cyborg had an iconic, to me it was iconic, that poster. And I remember the first time I saw it, it scared me so bad. I mean, they crucify Jean-Claude Van Damme in this movie, like he's crucified in this movie. And interestingly enough, Talon is crucified in The Sword and the Sorcerer too, another, in Albert's previous film. So, Albert has this very unusual vision for heroes. It's like a rebirth process. You know, you get crucified, but then you're resurrected as this like savior of a world. This was the first movie that Albert made that told us that heroes don't necessarily have to be human. This was a theme that Albert carried on for many, many years, even to this very day in 2020. He is obsessed with cyborgs. It's weird. It's kind of cool though. He would end up making Nemesis with Olivier Gruner. And Nemesis is such a rad movie. Cyborgs became an obsession for Albert. He'd made one called Omega Doom with Rutger Hauer, where Rutger Hauer plays an existential cyborg, kind of looking for the meaning of life amidst an apocalyptic war. And Albert is currently making what will likely be his final film. It's another Cyborg movie. It's a prequel to his Cyborg.